Officer Bradley Kane's boot slammed into Julian Cole's chest, sending the decorated martial arts master crashing through the glass case that lined the wall of his own dojo. Fragments exploded around him, cutting into his skin as he hit the floor with a sickening crunch. Blood traced a slow, glistening line down his cheek. Kane stood over him, gun drawn, his body camera conspicuously turned off. "Should have stayed in your lane, boy," the officer sneered. But what Kane didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Julian Cole wasn't just a respected teacher in a Midwest town, nor just a black martial artist teaching kids how to control their strength. Before any of this, before the dojo, before the life he built, Julian Cole had been something else entirely. The government's most elite covert operative, a ghost they called Phantom, and now, a ghost had been awakened. That morning had started like any other. Morning sun pooled across the polished wooden floor of Cole Martial Arts Academy as Julian moved with fluid grace through a demonstration. His students mirrored him, their forms measured and focused. At 46, Julian's movements were deliberate and efficient, strength contained within quiet control. "Aikido isn't about domination," he said calmly to the group. "It's about resolving conflict without escalating it. We absorb and redirect. We do not initiate." The room was a haven in an increasingly divided town. Julian had spent 5 years offering free classes to at-risk youth, mentoring kids who'd been written off by the system. He didn't decorate his dojo with trophies or belts, though he had plenty. Instead, the walls bore quotes about discipline, justice, and community. One of his most promising students, 16-year-old Aria Daniels, executed a flawless throw that sent her larger sparring partner flipping onto the mat. Julian smiled with quiet pride. When Aria first walked in, she was raw emotion, angry, defensive, and lost after bouncing through foster care. Now, she moved like someone who'd found her place. "Well done, Aria." "Everyone, hydrate." As the students dispersed, Julian noticed Grant Miller, who owned the hardware store next door, staring through the window. There was no smile, just a frown that had long since etched itself into habit. The same week, the town's business association had again, accidentally, omitted Julian's dojo from its neighborhood flyer. His phone buzzed in his pocket. "Blocked number. Julian, it's Nate. They found you. Watch your back." The line cut off before Julian could respond. Nate Barnes had been his partner in the field, back when they were phantoms. Julian felt something shift inside him, old instincts flaring. That afternoon, he noticed a cruiser slowly passing the dojo. Inside sat Officer Kane, camera raised, gaze unreadable. It was the third time that week. The next morning, Kane walked in with deliberate arrogance, boots stomping across sacred ground. He claimed there had been noise complaints, though no one in the dojo had ever heard any. Julian maintained calm. "We'll be mindful, officer." Kane looked around with contempt. "You got permits for all these kids? Looks like a daycare with punching bags." Julian's tone remained measured. "Everything's legal. You're welcome to see our documentation." Then Kane turned to Aria. "You got ID, sweetheart? You look like a problem." Julian stepped in. "That's enough. You questioning me, boy?" The venom in the slurs silenced the room. Kane walked to a display case, knocking a ceremonial sword to the floor. "Oops. Dangerous stuff you got here." "That's a centuries-old artifact," Julian said evenly. "Please respect the space." Kane grinned. "You people always worried about your stuff. How'd someone like you afford all this, huh? Some hustle I should know about." When Kane crushed a pair of glasses left on the mat under his heel, Julian reached for his phone to record. "Gun!" Kane roared, drawing his weapon. "He's reaching." Julian froze. "It's my phone." But Kane was already on him, slamming Julian backward. "Stop resisting." Julian did not resist. He couldn't, with students watching. The next thing he felt was the impact of Kane's kick. Then glass. Then blood. As the students screamed, Kane stood over him, snarling. "You people never learn." Julian offered no resistance as he was handcuffed, glass grinding into his back. "Call Eva Chun," he whispered to Aria before being dragged out. At the precinct, Julian waited 3 hours with no medical attention. Chief Douglas Myers watched from behind glass, pretending not to see. Julian knew the man, had seen him shake hands at city fundraisers. Myers never acknowledged Julian's contributions. Finally, Julian was shoved into cell 3, known for its broken toilet and icy air. Later, Eva Chin arrived. She was short, sharp-tongued, and fierce. A defense attorney who had helped Julian set up his dojo. "You've been here 4 hours without medical care. That's illegal," she shouted. "Visiting hours are over," a sergeant said dismissively. "I'm his attorney. I'm not visiting." Denied again. Eva threatened a court order. Meanwhile, on the station TV, the news already spun the tale. Local black instructor assaults officer. A photo of Kane appeared. A bandage on his head. Fabricated. There was no mention of Julian's injuries. No mention of the missing footage from the dojo. The next morning, Julian appeared in court before Judge Byron Walters. His injuries were bandaged, but still raw. Eva whispered as they stood at the defense table. "They're charging you with assault, resisting, illegal weapons, and operating an unauthorized training facility." "All of it false," Julian murmured. Walters never looked Julian in the eye. He declared a $250,000 bail. Outrageous. Purposeful. That night, a guard handed Julian a phone. On screen was a photo of his dojo, windows shattered, the words "No animals" spray painted across the door. They weren't just destroying his name. They were erasing his life. He lay in his cell remembering another time. Snow in Moldova, a mission gone wrong. A scientist, promised asylum, betrayed by his handlers. A young girl by his side. Julian, then Phantom, had disobeyed direct orders to kill them. He'd saved them, then disappeared. Julian Cole had been born that day. Now his past had found him. A new inmate entered his cell, tattoos marking gang ties and covert ops affiliations. "No hard feelings," the man growled, lunging with a shiv. Julian moved fast, redirecting force, countering with controlled precision. The man hit the ground, unconscious. The guards arrived too quickly, acting like it was routine. The next morning, Julian's bail was posted anonymously. Outside stood Nate Barnes, wearing a tailored suit. "Hello, Julian. Or should I say Phantom?" Once inside Nate's car, Julian asked, "How did they find me?" "Facial recognition. Someone ran your old data. Triggered a flag. I traced it before it was scrubbed. They're coming." When they arrived at the dojo, Julian felt physically ill. Inside, it had been gutted. A small crowd of parents demanded refunds. Only Arya remained, sweeping glass. "They're cowards," she muttered. "They're afraid," Julian corrected. "Fear makes people irrational." "I have proof," she said. "I was filming when he attacked you." The video showed everything. The unprovoked assault, the slurs, the destruction. But Arya's mom had taken the phone. "I uploaded it to the cloud before she could delete it." "That file is our leverage," Eva said. "But we need the original." Ray Donahue, Arya's mother's boyfriend, had the phone. A known abuser on probation. "No cops," Julian insisted. "We can't trust them." They devised a plan. Ray worked late shifts as mall security. While Eva created a diversion, Julian and Arya retrieved the phone. They got out just as a cruiser pulled up. "Miller," Julian muttered. He watched from behind a parked van, eyes scanning a tablet. Reviewing something. Maybe images of Julian's face. But he drove off without incident. Back at their safe house, they reviewed the video. "He recognized you the moment he walked in," Eva observed. This wasn't random. Nate dug deeper. Darren Kane had served with Black River, a private security firm tied to Julian's past missions. Julian's phone rang. "I knew it was you," Kane's voice purred. "We've got unfinished business, Phantom." "This is about Moldova?" Julian asked. "You cost me everything." That night, Eva learned the civil rights suit they filed was dismissed. Qualified immunity. The system had closed ranks. A protest followed, but the press labeled Julian's supporters as extremists. Julian met with Master Hero Tanaka, his former mentor in Chicago. "Violence is not our way," Tanaka said. "But sometimes, refusing to act is itself a kind of violence." Tanaka handed Julian a box, lockpick tools, and a secure flash drive, remnants of his old life. Back in Oak Ridge, Nate and Julian discovered a surveillance hub in the police department. They infiltrated it, downloading classified documents revealing the Blue Shield, a secret network of law enforcement tied to white supremacist donors and paramilitary ambitions. They planned an operation called Clean Sweep, designed to simulate community chaos and enforce martial law in black neighborhoods. Julian's dojo had been targeted as a pretext. Then came the final blow. Arya was arrested on trumped-up charges of drug trafficking. 17 years old, threatened with being tried as an adult. Julian made his decision. He would draw Kane into the open. offer himself in exchange for Arya's freedom. They arranged a meet at an abandoned factory. Cameras recorded every word. Kane couldn't resist bragging. "You cost me millions," he snarled. "Now you'll be our poster child. A black militant terrorist training kids for insurrection. You're the reason we'll clean this town out." Julian had heard enough. The fight was fast, violent, and surgical. He took down Kane's 2 accomplices and finally disarmed Kane himself. A brutal hand-to-hand fight ended with Julian pinning Kane to the concrete, his gun skittering away. "Game over," Julian said. Then a gunshot. Another officer, unseen, had fired. Julian was hit in the shoulder. He rolled for cover as backup arrived. Then more gunshots. Nate, from a rooftop, had returned fire. They escaped into the night with the evidence. The footage went viral. Within 48 hours, FBI agents raided police stations across 3 states. Chief Myers was arrested. So was Judge Walters. Even Director Lane Phillips, Julian's old handler, was exposed for covering up the conspiracy. Still, retaliation came swift. Eva's law license was suspended. Nate's safe house was burned. But the public tide had turned. At a televised police gala weeks later, Julian entered the ballroom, flanked by federal agents. Screens behind the stage lit up with evidence, confessions, surveillance tapes. Chief Myers tried to flee. He was arrested on the spot. Arya was freed that night. Operation Clean Sweep was dismantled. Julian could not return to his old life. But he rebuilt the dojo, this time with support from the community and funds seized from Blue Shield operatives. Arya began co-leading classes. The message was clear. They had tried to break him. They failed. One night, a flash drive arrived in the mail. A note inside read, "There are others. The game never ends." Julian watched from his rebuilt office window as children trained on the mats below. They would grow up stronger, smarter, ready, and so would he.